Welcome back from the break. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. Our big focus this hour in a move that has surprised some central security agencies. Two organizations representing pro-democracy rebel groups in Myanmar have signed an agreement for a merger. This agreement has been inked in Mizoram's capital of Aizawl in the presence of Chief Minister Lalduhoma and a few other local leaders. The Chinland Council and Interim Chin National Consultative Council were fighting Myanmar's military junta separately. Now they've joined hands under the banner of Chin National Council. What's surprising is that CM Lalduhoma has sat with the Myanmar rebel leaders and witnessed the signing of this agreement. This brings us to ask, how can the CM of a state within India sit with rebel groups of another country which is engaged in a civil war? And did CM Lalduhoma take clearance from the centre to allow rebels to enter India and meet them? Well, this, of course, is the big development we are tracking for you. Let me quickly bring in Major General Gigi Dwivedi, Global Strategic Affairs Analyst. We also have RVS Mani, former Under Secretary MHA, live with us. Pathikrit Pain, Geopolitical Analyst, is also joining the broadcast. Gautam Mukherjee, Senior Journalist, is also with us live. Major General Dwivedi, let me make a start with you first. Is this a big security breach that has taken place in the Northeast? How do you react to this meeting?
Well, Uday, definitely it's a matter of concern that when one of our chief minister is hobnobbing with the rebels and militant groups from across the border, I think this merits very serious consideration. And also, we need to understand what are the dynamics today along our borders, especially when you look at Myanmar and even Bangladesh. Well, let me put the thing in perspective. Possibly then we can understand why our chief minister was hobnobbing with the rebel groups. First and foremost, today, if you look at security, external and internal security today are hugely overlapping, and there is a impact of external and internal security, and especially when you look at the border states, and in this case, Myanmar, Mizoram, Nagaland, Arunachal, which are having the border with Myanmar, are definitely impacted with the development that are taking place after the 2021, when the military junta did the coup and they assumed the power. Second point is the ethnic connect, which is in these communities like Mizoram, Mizos, Chin across the Myanmar, Kukis. They all have a historical and a cultural connect, and therefore there is a lot of give and take among these groups, and in fact they have a common aspiration to have a separate homeland of the Zo homeland. So this needs to be understood in that perspective, that Chins are very closely connected with the Mizos and Kukis, and having commanded the division in Manipur, in the area of Mizoram, well, I can say with certain amount of credibility that this is a reality which cannot be wished away. The second point is the border management, because today the borders are porous, and well, it can be said aspiration that we will fence the 1,640-kilometer border, but in reality, it's very difficult both from the terrain and also from the climate. And I have seen these borders across that it is not physically possible to hermetically seal the border. Therefore, this type of connect will continue. And the third point is that these rebel groups are today at war with the military junta, and there is a three-brother alliance that is in existence, and almost 20,000 kilometers of Myanmar is under these groups. So therefore, what one can understand is that while we have concern what's going on in Myanmar, but I don't think that our leaders, our state leaders, should be directly dealing with this issue. Well, this issue has to be dealt more from the center, because when it comes to interstate or international relationship, it is not in the hands of the state government to take such initiatives. All I can say is that first and foremost, we need to tighten our borders, and I have been saying time and again, we need a separate border guarding force which can ensure that the borders are not violated at will. Second point is we need to have a very clear Northeast policy. In that, we need to understand and also have a very stated, way forward as to how we are dealing with the neighboring country, because today Myanmar is definitely on the boil. And my third point is that we need to come very heavily on any such development, and I am sure the Chief Minister must be asked as to in what capacity was he dealing with the rebel groups, and that is beyond his jurisdiction. Uh,
Yes.
Uday.
RVS Mani, let me quickly draw you in here. RVS Mani, now the next big question is, would the Home Ministry have had prior information of this meeting, or would this have come as a surprise to them? If they had prior information, are you surprised that the clearance was given? What do you make of this incident?
See, in June 2024, the same Chief Minister Lalduhoma had gone to a US university and declared about formation or attempts to make out a Chin state. That time the US leadership was different and they were also fanning it, and these are all on the matters of record. It's all in public domain. So that itself was the first alarm bell. With a change of I do not want to make any guesswork, but it's a fact that certain forces in United States at that time of governance had tried to fan Myanmar, parts of Myanmar, Arakan Valley capturing by the rebels, and then Myanmar and parts of Bangladesh to come out with a Chin Christian state or a Chin Cookie state or whatever it is. The outlines were there, the figures were already seen during the June 24 press conference, just before the June 24 press conference of the Honorable Chief Minister in US University. That's a fact. So that was the first alarm bell. We should have, I'm sure the Home Ministry would have woken up at that time itself, and our agencies would be working on it. But now with the change in leadership, because that was very well fanned, it was well within the knowledge that it was fanned by certain groups in United States, which now no longer enjoy proximity to power. This is one thing. Immediately, along with the Sheikh Hasina's deposition as head of the government, all these things joined together. So it is a factor, it is a force which is acting. In fact, that force had also shown its footprints in the Manipur carnage also, because of the fact that the amount of arms and the amount of synthetic drugs which are being pumped in to fund the rebellion in Manipur had been very, very humongous. And that is the reason they could sustain it for 21 days in spite of all the effort. Yes, initially the center had not been there, but last few months, it has, after the president rule and all, they have held it by the grabbed the entire situation, and now it's more muscular and more persuasive as well as muscular. So that is the second part of the story. And Myanmar's, Mizoram's infiltration, Mizoram, Manipur also share a long border. That infiltration also, and ethnic affinity, affinity also was one of the reasons for this. This is the third point of it. And we also have, even now, the border areas bordering Manipur and Myanmar and Mizoram, in Aizawl and other places, many people are daily passengers coming from Myanmar, and that is where the border management has to be strengthened. I indeed agree with General Dwivedi that fencing the border, see, there are alternate ways of surveillance in the border. Border surveillance could be improved, but this is a very immediate necessity because it is showing a very round tendency both on the Manipur Mizoram thing and as well as on the Tripura Mizoram thing. The borders have to be very strongly and in a meaningful manner, or very strongly it has to be the surveillance has to increase manifold, I'm sure. Plus technical surveillances will also can be done if the fencing is not possible because of the challenging terrain. I believe that it could be more surveillance, more floodlighting, more setting up of more land ports, immigration posts, etc., and also presence of higher level of grid security method by different forces, including using the Assam Rifles, who are well conversant with those areas, reinforced by the CRPF and other BSF and other security forces. So it's a multi-pronged attack approach which has to be taken. Bangladesh had even hitherto had nurtured the Indian insurgents group. This is a different type of insurgency. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Let me get in Pathikrit as well at this point. Pathikrit, what do you make of this meeting that has happened? Are your eyebrows raised at how this was allowed to happen in India? Or do you believe that it is something that, is not so concerning for you? What is your take on this meeting, the manner in which it happened, the fact that rebel groups merger agreement was signed with an Indian chief minister in attendance? What do you make of it?
Well, Uday, first and foremost, I'm pretty sure that the Home Ministry is aware of it, and we have General V.K. Singh as the governor of Mizoram now, if I'm not mistaken. I still believe that it is within control, but I think the indications and the tentacles are something which are, ominous. For example, people of Mizoram can have cultural, ethnic, cultural, and historical connect with people of Myanmar and Bangladesh within the Zo community. As a Bengali, there are cultural connect I have with people of Bangladesh. Doesn't mean that I want to aspire for a free and independent country of Bengali someday. So if that is something which we heard that the chief minister of Mizoram state sometime in United States in a speech, that was alarming. That cannot be. And then there was a clarification. No, he wanted to say within the framework of a greater Mizoram within the sovereign country of India. But I think those are afterwards. Afterthoughts. I still believe that given the situation in Northeast, given the situation in Bangladesh, let me tell you this, those people, those elements who invested in Bangladesh to release radical extremist people, those elements who invested in Bangladesh to create a chaotic situation, they would certainly try to extract their pound of flesh. They would want their return on investment. And that means that they would want those elements to create problem in India, whether it is in Northeast India or this part of India. And therefore, it is extremely important that even when a little bit of leeway is given, it doesn't cross the line. The sensitivities of the situation is so, volatile. The volatility is so profound that these things can send wrong, signals. And therefore, it has to be very clearly dealt. It cannot be all the time that he says whatever he wants, what he meets whoever he wants, because this is completely out of his domain. He may have cultural ties, doesn't mean that it is a domain, if at all. If at all it comes under the domain of the sovereign federal government, it comes under the domain of MEA. It doesn't come under the domain of Chief Minister of Mizoram. So that messaging, I hope, it has been sent out to him, because this is not the first time such things have been said. On the issue of border fencing, let me tell you this. I agree there are problems with fencing, but that doesn't mean that we should not have fencing. That there has to be a reference point somewhere. Yes, it is a problematic thing. Yes, technical surveillance should be there, but that doesn't mean that the absence of fencing in the last 70 years has helped us a lot. It is not so. So we need to somewhere change that mindset. So far as Assam Rifles is concerned, Assam Rifles has shown its limitations in terms of manning the border for a long period of time. There are problems that Assam Rifles face because of the composition of its force, and that's why I strongly believe that border fencing, border guarding of Myanmar ideally should be given to a BSF or an ITBP. Assam Rifles is a great organization, but it has its own complications because of the ethnic composition and other challenges. We have seen that issue during the Manipur problem as well. I am not doubting the integrity of the organization. It's a wonderful organization, but each organization has its own issues and challenges. So that has to be kept in mind. But given the overall challenges that India has in the Northeast, especially from across the border, therefore, this cannot be taken lightly, and it has to be dealt with, nipped in the bud, especially when a lot of efforts, commendable efforts, are being made by Government of India, especially under Governor Mr. Ajay Bhalla, in Manipur to sort out the issues. At that point of time, these kind of incidents may send out a wrong signal, and therefore we have to be very cautious. Back to you then.
Okay, let me in fact quickly get in Gautam Mukherjee as well. Gautam Mukherjee, what's your take on this? Do you believe the Home Ministry would have had prior information of this? Were they okay with this? Is this a security breach that has happened? Is this something which should be welcomed, or something which should be seen with eyebrows raised and alarm bells ringing? Gautam.
Well, I'm pretty sure, like Pathikrit, that this was with the knowledge of the Home Ministry. There may be some mileage for India in being a mediator and not exactly a participant, but a witness to this merger between different groups of essentially cookies in Myanmar, because they are opposed in any case to the military junta. So they could act as a buffer for India, and the chief minister of Mizoram may be acting in this case with that in mind. There's a 580 odd kilometer border which should be fenced. I know the Mizos are against the fencing because, again, ethnic ties and friendships and so on, but it should be done in any case. Who then guards the border can be determined. It is a matter of deployment of different forces. We have a long border all along the east, right from Assam, right into Manipur, and Myanmar, is a problem. But then if we can make friends with one side, as it were, via Mizoram, it's no harm done. There's the Bangladeshis trying to do something. There are other groups. There's Myanmar junta. There's the Chinese. So we might get a leg in by doing this, and I'm quite sure that the end result will be beneficial. Technically speaking, it's not the province of a chief minister, but I can't see Amit Shah himself sitting there and doing a better job. This man understands the language, understands the culture, and he is the right man to be deputed to try and build bridges. Uday.
Yes. Okay, let me in fact quickly take that across to you once again, Major Dwivedi. Major Dwivedi, as far as, of course, now the situation in Myanmar is concerned as well, where is it headed and how should India view it, given the fact that so many of our border states have that sensitive border with Myanmar, which is mostly porous?
Well, Uday, first and foremost, let me share with you, I have a little skepticism,
Okay.
because having been also worn the diplomatic hat, that when two countries deal with each other, there's a mechanism that is there, there's a protocol. I don't think chief ministers actually are the flag bearers on this score. Possibly, this has been done by the chief minister because there are 30,000 chins who are sitting in a state, and possibly he was trying to work out some mechanism so that they can be sent back. But secondly, the point is that it's very important that until your periphery is secure, your country is not secure, because as I said, internal and external security dynamics are overlapping. So we need to keep a very close watch as to what is happening, and in political manner, we need to also ensure that certain red lines are drawn across our neighbors, be it Bangladesh, be it Pakistan, be it Myanmar. We have to draw certain red lines because we cannot afford to compromise on national interest. And the third point is, see, border management today has become very critical, and it cannot be just, as an ad hoc basis. Unfortunately, we don't have a very clear-cut border management policy across the board. And it is time that we need to draw a very clear policy, have an exclusive border guarding force, because border guarding is a different ball game altogether. It's not actually within the purview of the army or even some of the paramilitary forces. We need to have a very dedicated borders guarding force, because until your borders are secure, you cannot be secure internally. And my last point is, I think we need to take definitely a cognizance of our border states. That's right from Punjab, J&K, and all other borders like the Northeast, that we have to have a very clear-cut policy, especially on the Northeast. That should be national policy, which must encompass the border security also.